the underestimation. The supreme coordination sphere hung in the darkness like a jewel made of light and metal. It was the largest artificial structure in the known galaxy, built over 3,000 years by the combined efforts of 63 civilizations. The sphere orbited a dying red giant star, drawing power from its fading light. Inside its crystalline walls, millions of beings could gather to discuss matters that affected the entire galactic community. Today, every seat was filled. Every species had sent their representatives. The air hummed with tension, and the translation devices worked overtime, converting thousands of languages into comprehensible speech. High Coordinator Zephyriel stood at the center of the Grand Assembly Hall. His species, the Vornathi, had evolved on a high-gravity world covered in endless oceans. His body was large and powerful, covered in shimmering blue scales that reflected the light from above. His 4 eyes could see in spectrums that most species could not even imagine. The Vornathi had been part of the Galactic Council for 12,000 years. They had seen empires rise and fall like waves on an ocean. They had mediated conflicts between species so different from each other that communication seemed impossible. They had brought peace to a galaxy that once knew only war. Zephyriel had served as High Coordinator for 3 centuries, and in all that time, he had never encountered a problem he could not solve through negotiation and reason. Until now, until humanity, representatives of the Galactic Council, Zephyriel began, his voice amplified through the sphere, so that every being could hear him clearly. We gather today to address a crisis that threatens the very foundation of our unified civilization. A species from the Outer Rim has repeatedly violated our laws, rejected our authority, and refused to accept their place in the galactic order. The humans of the Sol system have become a danger that we can no longer ignore. A murmur rippled through the assembled representatives. Some clicked their appendages in agreement. Others flashed colors of concern across their bodies. The younger species looked worried. The ancient ones looked annoyed. Everyone had heard of the humans by now. The aggressive newcomers who had only achieved faster-than-light travel 200 years ago. The primitive species who still fought wars among themselves even as they reached for stars. The strange beings who valued something they called freedom more than they valued peace. Zephyriel continued. The humans were offered membership in the Council 5 decades ago. We asked only what we ask of all species. Contribute to the common defense, accept territorial boundaries, pay the standard resource tribute, and acknowledge Council authority in matters of galactic law. Simple terms. Reasonable terms. Terms that 742 species before them have accepted without complaint. He paused, letting the number sink in. The humans rejected every single condition. They claimed their system belonged to them alone. They refused to pay tribute, saying they owed nothing to civilizations they had never asked for protection from. They rejected our territorial claims, insisting they would expand wherever they chose. And they laughed at our authority. The murmur grew louder. Several representatives stood, demanding to speak. Zephyriel raised his primary hand, calling for silence. I know many of you believe we should have acted sooner. You are correct. We gave the humans time, hoping they would see reason. We sent diplomats, educators, and cultural ambassadors. We tried to show them the benefits of cooperation. They smiled, thanked us for our concern, and continued doing exactly as they pleased. They have established colonies and systems we designated as protected zones. They have harvested resources from regions marked as Council reserves. They have ignored every warning, every fine, every attempted enforcement. The time for patience has ended. War Commander Thexus rose from his seat in the military section of the sphere. He was a member of the Krillian species, beings who had evolved from pack predators on a harsh desert world. His body was covered in armored plates that gleamed like polished stone. He had 6 limbs, each ending in claws that could tear through steel. His species had served as the Council's military force for 8,000 years. They had put down rebellions on 400 worlds. They had never lost a war. Ever. High Coordinator, Thexus said, his voice like grinding rocks. The Krillian Defense Fleet has prepared a comprehensive solution to the human problem. With the Council's permission, I will present our analysis and proposed action. Zephyriel nodded, and Thexus activated a holographic display that dominated the center of the chamber. Numbers and images appear in the air, visible to all. The human military consists of 420 warships. Thexus began. Their vessels are small, averaging only 800 meters in length. Their weapons are primitive kinetic accelerators and fusion warheads. Their defensive shields are generations behind current galactic standards. Their faster-than-light drives are slow and inefficient. In summary, they possess the military capability of a typical developing species that has just achieved interstellar travel. They are not a serious threat. He manipulated the display, and a new set of images appeared. The Council Defense Fleet has assembled the Galactic Enforcement Armada specifically for this operation. 18,000 warships from 47 member species. Our vessels average 3 kilometers in length and carry weapon systems that can sterilize entire planets. Our shields can withstand direct hits from stellar-class weapons. Our drives can cross the galaxy in weeks rather than months. Thexus paused for effect. We have also employed the infinite algorithm, the most advanced predictive system ever created. For 15,000 years, this artificial intelligence has calculated the outcomes of military conflicts with 99.97% accuracy. It has analyzed 5,000 wars and predicted the results of each one correctly. The algorithm has examined every aspect of human military capability, every strategic option available to them, every possible tactic they might employ. He touched the display, and a final set of numbers appeared. The algorithm predicts the following: battle duration, 6.2 hours. Human casualties, 100%. Council casualties, 0.4%. Probability of human victory, 0.0003%. That number exists only because the algorithm accounts for the possibility of catastrophic technical failure on our part, not because the humans have any realistic chance of success. The sphere erupted in sound of approval. Representatives from dozens of species expressed their satisfaction with the analysis. The humans would be crushed. Order would be restored. The galaxy would remember why no one defied the Council. Zephyriel allowed the celebration to continue for a moment before calling for silence once more. Before we proceed with this action, we must offer the humans one final opportunity to surrender. It is our way. We are not barbarians who kill without warning. He gestured toward a small section of the sphere where a single human sat alone. Ambassador Dr. Sarah Okafor had been sitting quietly throughout the entire proceeding, listening to every word. She was a small woman by human standards, barely over 160 centimeters tall. Her skin was dark brown, her hair was cut short and starting to gray at the temples. She wore a simple uniform of deep blue with no decorations except for a small pin on her collar, the symbol of United Earth. She had been a soldier once, fighting in the last of the wars between human nations. Then she had become a strategist, teaching at military academies. When humanity made first contact with alien life, she had retrained as a diplomat. She had spent the last 30 years trying to build bridges between her species and the galaxy. She had failed. But failure, she had learned long ago, was just another form of data. Sarah stood slowly, feeling the weight of thousands of alien eyes upon her. She walked to the center of the chamber where Zephyriel and Thexus waited. The sphere fell silent. Every translator device focused on her words. Every recording system captured this moment. History was being made. "High Coordinator," Sarah said, her voice calm and steady. "War Commander. Representatives of the Galactic Council. I have listened to your accusations and your analysis. I have heard your predictions and your threats. Before you proceed, I want to make sure I understand correctly. You are offering humanity one final chance to surrender. If we agree to your terms right now, our species will be allowed to survive as a servant race under Council authority. Is that correct?" Zephyriel nodded, his expression almost kind. "Yes, Ambassador. We take no pleasure in extinction. Surrender now, and your people will live. They will serve, yes, but they will live. It is a generous offer considering the crimes your species has committed." Sarah smiled just slightly. It was not a happy smile. It was a smile of someone who had expected exactly this outcome and had prepared accordingly. "Thank you for clarifying. In that case, on behalf of United Earth and all human colonies, I must respectfully decline your offer. We will not surrender. We will not serve. We will remain free, or we will die free. Those are the only two options we accept." The sphere exploded with noise. Representatives shouted in dozens of languages. Some demanded that the human be arrested immediately. Others called for an immediate military strike without any further delays. A very few, looked troubled by the human certainty. Thexus stared at Sarah with something resembling confusion. His species had conquered so many worlds. They had seen every type of courage and defiance. But always, when faced with overwhelming force, species eventually chose life over death. Self-preservation was universal. Or so they had believed. "You understand what you are choosing?" Thexus asked. "Your 400 ships against our 18,000. Your primitive weapons against our advanced systems. The algorithm gives you no chance. None. You will all die. Every human on every world. Do you understand this?" Sarah met his gaze without flinching. "I understand that your algorithm has never calculated a war against humans before. I understand that you believe you know everything there is to know about warfare. I understand that you think we are primitives who stumbled into space without learning anything along the way." She paused, and her smile grew a fraction wider. "I understand that you have no idea what you are about to face." Zephyriel raised his hand for silence. "Ambassador Okafor, I ask you one final time. Please, reconsider. We do not wish to exterminate your species, but we will if we must. The Council's authority cannot be questioned. If we allow you to defy us, others will follow. The peace we have built over thousands of years will collapse. Surely you can see that we have no choice." Sarah nodded slowly. "I see that you believe that, just as I see that nothing I say will change your mind. You have made your calculations and reached your conclusions. So proceed, High Coordinator. Send your armada. Attack our system. Do what you believe you must do." She turned to leave, then stopped and looked back. "But do me one favor. Record everything. Every moment of the battle. Every decision. Every outcome. Historians should have an accurate account of what happens next." As Sarah walked back to her seat, one being watched her with unusual intensity. Kelvin was a young researcher from the Luminari species, beings who had evolved from herd animals on a peaceful grassland world. His people had never known war. They had joined the Council seeking knowledge and friendship. Kelvin had spent his life studying animal behavior and predator-prey dynamics. He had a gift for reading body language, for understanding the subtle signals that all living creatures gave off. And as he watched the human ambassador walk calmly back to her seat, every instinct he had developed over years of study screamed at him that something was terribly wrong. Prey species did not act this way. When faced with an overwhelming predator, they ran or froze or submitted. They did not smile. They did not challenge. They did not remain calm. Sarah Okafor walked like a predator, not prey. She moved with the confidence of someone who knew they held a winning hand in a card game where everyone else thought they were bluffing. Kelvin wanted to say something, to warn the Council that their assumptions might be dangerously wrong. But he was young and inexperienced. Who would listen to him? The infinite algorithm had calculated the outcome. The greatest military minds in the galaxy had analyzed the situation. What could a junior researcher possibly know that they had missed? So Kelvin remained silent and made a decision that would change his life. He would go with the Armada. He would observe the battle firsthand. He would document everything just as the human ambassador had requested. If the Council was right, he would witness the end of an aggressive species and learn an important lesson about the consequences of defying galactic order. If the Council was wrong, well, then perhaps his observations could help prevent future mistakes. Either way, history was about to be written, and Kelvin wanted to read every word. 3 days later, the Galactic Enforcement Armada departed from the Supreme Coordination Sphere. 18,000 warships formed into a pattern called the Wave of Justice, a formation that had been used successfully in hundreds of campaigns over thousands of years. The fleet was beautiful in its terrible purpose. Ships from dozens of species, each contributing their unique strengths to the collective force. Energy beings who could manipulate electromagnetic fields. Silicon-based life forms whose vessels could withstand unimaginable temperatures. Aquatic species whose ships carried entire oceans inside them, all united under one purpose: teach the humans their place in the galactic order. War Commander Thexus commanded the fleet from the bridge of the Eternal Triumph, a battleship 5 kilometers long that had served as the flagship for 300 campaigns. Around him, hundreds of officers monitored their stations. Every system was operating at peak efficiency. Every weapon was charged and ready. Every shield was calibrated to maximum strength. The Krillian Defense Fleet had been preparing for this moment for 5 years, ever since it became clear that the humans would not negotiate. They had run thousands of simulations. They had trained against every possible human tactic. They knew exactly how this battle would unfold. As the Armada traveled through hyperspace toward the Sol system, Thexus reviewed the tactical plans one final time. The humans had 420 ships. Intelligence reports confirmed they were all gathered near the fourth planet, Mars, in a defensive formation, standard behavior for an outmatched force. They would try to protect their home world, Earth, by forcing the Council fleet to fight through them first. It was a noble but futile gesture. The Armada would simply divide into 3 groups. One would engage the human fleet directly. The second would flank them from above. The third would sweep around and strike from behind. Surrounded and outnumbered 40-1, the humans would break within the first hour. After that, it would just be a matter of eliminating the scattered survivors. The battle would be over by lunch. Kelvin sat in a small observation vessel attached to the side of the Eternal Triumph. He had his recording equipment ready. He had his notes prepared. He was as ready as he could be to witness his first battle. He tried not to think about the millions of humans who would die today. They had made their choice. They had refused to bend. In nature, organisms that could not adapt did not survive. It was a harsh truth, but it was truth nonetheless. Still, something bothered him. That smile, that terrible, knowing smile on Ambassador Okafor's face. What did she know? What had the Council missed? The Armada dropped out of hyperspace at the edge of the Sol system, and for a moment, everything was exactly as predicted. There was a small yellow star. There were the 8 planets orbiting in their ancient dance. There were the 420 human ships in formation near Mars. Everything matched the intelligence reports perfectly. Thexus allowed himself a moment of satisfaction. The humans had not run. They had not hidden. They were going to fight, which meant this would end quickly and decisively. All ships, proceed to attack formation, Thexus ordered. Maintain the wave of justice pattern. Primary fleet will engage the human vessels directly. Secondary and tertiary fleets will execute flanking maneuvers on my command. Weapons free in 60 seconds. The Armada began its advance, moving deeper into the Sol system. Thexus watched the tactical display, waiting for the humans to react. They should be panicking now. They should be breaking formation, trying to scatter, making desperate calls for mercy. Instead, the human fleet simply sat there, silent and motionless. Not a single ship moved. Not a single communication was transmitted. They were just waiting. "Commander," one of the sensor officers said, her voice uncertain, "I am detecting an anomaly." Thexus turned toward her. What kind of anomaly? The officer manipulated her controls, and new data appeared on the tactical display. "Sir, I am picking up thousands of small energy signatures throughout the system. They were not there a moment ago. They just appeared on sensors. They are everywhere. In the asteroid belt, around the gas giants, in high orbit above Earth. Sir, I count over 50,000 individual contacts." Thexus felt something cold spread through his body. 50,000 contacts. That was impossible. Intelligence reported 420 ships. Where did 50,000 targets come from? "Identify those contacts immediately," he ordered. "Are they ships? Weapons platforms? Space stations?" The sensor officer worked frantically, pulling data from multiple sources. "Sir, they're not ships. They appear to be weapons platforms of various types. Rail guns, missile batteries, laser arrays, and something else. Something I have never seen before. They were completely dormant until now. No power signatures, no heat emissions, nothing. They've been floating out here, silent and cold, for months, maybe years. We flew right past thousands of them and never detected them. The cold feeling in Thexus's body turned to ice. A trap. The entire system was a trap. The humans had not gathered 420 ships to defend their home world. They had gathered 420 ships as bait. The Real defense was all around them, hidden in the darkness, waiting for the perfect moment to strike. And the Galactic Enforcement Armada had just flown into the center of it. Emergency status. Thexus shouted. All ships raise shields to maximum. Evasive maneuvers. Get us out of... He never finished the sentence. The first wave of kinetic rounds hit the Armada from 17 different directions simultaneously, and the Battle of Seoul began not with human defeat, but with galactic terror. The revelation. The universe became fire and metal. Thousands of kinetic rounds, each no larger than human fist, streaked through the void at 10% of light speed. They had been fired from railgun platforms hidden throughout the asteroid belt, weapons that had been drifting cold and silent for over 3 years, charging their capacitors with solar energy, waiting for this exact moment. At the speeds they were traveling, the rounds did not need explosives. Physics did all the work. When a piece of metal moving at 30,000 kilometers per second hits a spaceship, the kinetic energy released is equivalent to a small nuclear weapon. The shields that protected Council warships were designed to deflect energy beams and absorb particle weapon fire. They were masterpieces of defensive technology, capable of withstanding the most powerful weapons known to galactic civilization. They had one critical weakness that no one had ever thought to address. They were almost useless against solid projectiles moving at relativistic speeds. 300 Council ships simply ceased to exist in the first 2 seconds. They did not explode dramatically. They did not burn or break apart. They were simply erased, torn to clouds of superheated plasma by impacts that released more energy than most stars produce in a day. The beautiful wave of Justice formation, perfected over thousands of years of warfare, became a field of debris and confusion. Ships that had been flying in perfect coordination suddenly found themselves surrounded by wreckage and unable to tell which direction the attack was coming from, because the attack was coming from every direction at once. War Commander Thexus gripped a command chair as the Eternal Triumph shuddered under multiple impacts. Alarms screamed throughout the bridge. Damage reports flooded in from every section of the ship. The shields were holding, but barely. The flagship had been built to withstand anything the galaxy could throw at it, and now it was being tested beyond its design limits. Return fire, Thexus roared. Target those platforms. Destroy them. But the weapons officers were shaking their heads in frustration. The platforms were scattered across millions of kilometers. They were small and cold, radiating almost no heat signature. The targeting systems, designed to lock onto large ships with powerful engines and hot weapons, could barely find them. And even when a platform was located and destroyed, 10 more continued firing. For every weapon the Council eliminated, the humans had planted backups. Then something worse happened. The 420 human warships, which had been sitting motionless near Mars, suddenly moved. But they did not fly toward the Council Armada as any sane military force would. They did not retreat to a safer distance. Instead, they vanished. Every single human ship disappeared from sensors for a fraction of a second, and when they reappeared, they were inside the Council formation, scattered among the thousands of alien warships like wolves among sheep. They had jumped. Not across star systems, as hyperspace drives were designed to do, but across a few thousand kilometers. Short-range tactical jumps. It was a technique that should have been impossible. Hyperspace mathematics required precise calculations over vast distances. The energy requirements for such short jumps should have been prohibitive. The stress on the ship systems should have torn the vessels apart. But the humans had done it anyway because apparently, when humans were told something was impossible, they took it as a challenge rather than a fact. The human ships opened fire at point-blank range. Their kinetic cannons, primitive by galactic standards, suddenly became devastatingly effective when fired from less than a kilometer away. Council ships that had been designed for long-range combat found themselves in a knife fight with an enemy that had trained for exactly this scenario. The humans fought like nothing Thexus had ever seen. They did not hold formation. They did not follow any recognizable tactical doctrine. They jumped in, fired everything they had, then jumped out before the Council ships could respond. They appeared behind their targets. They appeared above and below. They appeared inside the blind spots that every ship design inevitably had. And they never, ever stayed in one place long enough to be targeted effectively. Kelvin watched from his observation vessel in absolute horror. His entire understanding of warfare, built from thousands of hours of study and simulation, was being destroyed as thoroughly as the Council fleet. This was not how battles were supposed to work. There were rules, patterns, behaviors that all military forces followed because they were the most efficient ways to fight. The humans were ignoring every single rule and somehow winning because of it. His recording equipment captured everything. The chaos, the explosions, the way human ships moved through battle, like sharks through water, always hunting, always attacking, never giving their enemies a moment to organize or respond. He saw a human destroyer jump directly in front of a Council battleship, fire a full spread of nuclear missiles into the battleship's bridge, then jump away before the massive ship could even rotate its weapons to target. He saw 3 human frigates' coordinated jump that placed them in a perfect triangle around a Council carrier, their combined fire tearing to the carrier's engines in seconds. He saw tactics that no algorithm could have predicted because they were based on a fundamental assumption that the Council had never considered, that humans were not just willing to take risks, they were willing to take suicidal risks if it meant completing their objective. 5 minutes into the battle, War Commander Thexus realized with absolute clarity that he was going to die. The Galactic Enforcement Armada, the most powerful military force ever assembled, was being systematically destroyed by an enemy that should not have stood a chance. The tactical displays showed the truth in numbers that could not be denied. 14,000 Council ships destroyed or disabled, 4,000 remaining scattered and disorganized. Human casualties, 37 ships, 37, out of 420. The kill ratio was not just unexpected. It was obscene. It was impossible. And yet it was happening. All ships retreat. Thexus ordered, his voice cracking with desperation. Emergency hyperspace jump. Get out of this system. But his communications officer was shaking her head, tears streaming down her face. Sir, we cannot jump. The human weapons platforms have created interference fields throughout the system. Any hyperspace jump attempted now will tear the ship apart. We are trapped. They planned for this. They planned for everything. Thexus slumped his command chair, watching his fleet die around him. The infinite algorithm had predicted 6.2 hours. The battle had been going for 4 minutes and 17 seconds. How had this happened? How had every calculation been so catastrophically wrong? The answer came from an unexpected source. A communication channel opened, bypassing the standard protocols. A face appeared on every screen in what remained of the Council fleet. It was a human male, older, with dark skin and gray hair cut military short. He wore a uniform of deep black with silver insignia on the shoulders. Behind him, Kelvin could see what was clearly the bridge of a warship, with crew members working calmly at their stations. Council forces, the human said. His voice translated into 1,000 languages simultaneously. I am Admiral James Chun of the United Earth Defense Fleet. You are defeated. Your armada is destroyed. If you continue to fight, we will eliminate every remaining ship. However, humanity does not wish for further bloodshed. Power down your weapons, lower your shields, and prepare to be taken into custody. You will be treated according to the rules of warfare and returned to your people once terms have been negotiated. This is your only warning. You have 2 minutes to comply. The transmission ended. Thexus looked around his bridge at the officers who had served with him for decades. He saw fear in their eyes. Fear and something else. Relief. Relief that someone was offering them a way to survive. He had never surrendered in his entire military career. The Krillian Defense Fleet had never surrendered in 8,000 years. But the alternative was death, and unlike the humans apparently, Thexus valued his life more than his pride. All ships stand down, he said quietly. Lower shields. Power down weapons. We surrender. Throughout what remained of the Armada, The order was followed. One by one, thousands of warships went dark, their crews sitting in silence, unable to process what had just happened. Kelvin's observation vessel drifted among the wreckage, his recording equipment still running. He had documented everything. The trap, the slaughter, the surrender, and now he was about to document something even more unexpected. Human ships were approaching the disabled council vessels, not to destroy them, but to offer assistance. Small craft were launching, heading towards ships that had suffered life support failures. Medical supplies were being transmitted via emergency channels. Rescue teams were preparing to evacuate damaged vessels before their reactors failed. The humans had just killed 14,000 ships' worth of council personnel, and now they were saving the survivors. A human rescue vessel approached Kelvin's observation pod. A voice came through his communication system, speaking his language with a slight electronic accent. Luminary vessel, this is Rescue Team 7. We show your life support at 40% and dropping. We are attaching a transfer tube. Please prepare for evacuation. Kelvin could barely find his voice. You are rescuing me? But I was with the invasion fleet. I came here to document your destruction. There was a pause. Then a different voice came through, older and female. Young one, you were not a combatant. You were an observer doing a job. We kill soldiers when we must. We do not kill historians. Now, please stop arguing and let us bring you aboard before your air runs out completely. Minutes later, Kelvin found himself on a human destroyer, wrapped in a thermal blanket and holding a cup of something hot that the humans call tea. A medic had examined him and declared him healthy despite some minor oxygen deprivation. The crew members who passed him in the corridors nodded politely. Some even smiled. These were the same beings who had just executed the most brutal military victory in recorded galactic history, and they were offering him tea. The cognitive dissonance was overwhelming. He was brought to a small room where a human woman in a dark blue uniform waited. She looked familiar, and after a moment, Kelvin realized why. Ambassador Okafor, he said, his voice barely a whisper. You are here, on a warship, during the battle. Sarah smiled. It was a kind smile, nothing like the terrible knowing expression she had worn in the council chamber. I am a soldier first, young Kelvin. Diplomat second. I wanted to be here when it happened, to see if all our planning would actually work. She gestured for him to sit, and she sat across from him. You have been recording everything. Good. The galaxy needs to know what happened here today. But I think they also need to understand why it happened. May I tell you a story? Kelvin could only nod, still trying to process everything. Sarah leaned back in her chair. 200,000 years ago, humans were just another species of animal on Earth. We were not the strongest. We were not the fastest. We did not have claws or fangs or armor. We had one advantage. We could think. We could plan. We could work together. And we could hold a grudge. She paused, her expression distant. We spent the next 200,000 years fighting each other. Tribe against tribe. Nation against nation. Ideology against ideology. We invented weapons to kill our neighbors. We invented defenses to stop their weapons. Then we invented better weapons to defeat their defenses. We went from throwing rocks to splitting atoms. We created bombs that could end our entire species. And then we built thousands of them and pointed them at each other for 100 years. Kelvin listened, transfixed. This was not the history the Council had taught about humanity. They had presented humans as a simple aggressive species, dangerous but primitive. Sarah continued, We finally stopped fighting each other not because we became peaceful, but because we found something we hated more than each other. We discovered that we were not alone in the universe, and the civilizations out there wanted to own us, to control us, to make us serve them. That unified us faster than any philosophy or religion ever had. We looked at the Galactic Council, and we saw what it really was. An empire dressed up in peaceful language. And humans have very strong feelings about empires. She stood and walked to a viewport, looking out at the wreckage of the Council fleet. So we prepared. For 60 years, every human nation contributed to a single project. Turn our solar system into a fortress. We built weapons platforms and hid them everywhere. We modified our ships to do things they were never designed to do. We trained our military to fight in ways that would horrify civilized species. We studied every battle the Council had ever fought and identified the patterns, the formations they always used, the tactics they always employed, the assumptions they always made. And then we built a strategy around exploiting every single one of those patterns. Kelvin finally found his voice. But the infinite algorithm, it calculated the battle. How did it not predict this? Sarah turned back to him, and now her smile had a sharp edge. The algorithm is based on data from 5,000 previous conflicts. Every one of those conflicts was fought between species who were part of galactic civilization, species who had been taught the proper way to wage war, the honorable way, the civilized way. The algorithm had never encountered a species that learned to fight before it learned to be civilized. It had never calculated a war against humans, because humans do not fight the way the rest of the galaxy fights. We fight to win, and we do not care if our methods are considered barbaric or unfair. We care about survival. She walked back to Kelvin and placed a gentle hand on his shoulder. Your people evolved from herd animals. You understand cooperation and peace. The Krillians evolved from pack predators. They understand hunting and dominance. Most species in the galaxy evolve in conditions that taught them specific survival strategies. Humans evolve in conditions that taught us every strategy. We can cooperate when cooperation serves us. We can compete when competition is necessary. We can be peaceful when peace is advantageous and violent when violence is required. We are adaptable in ways that other species simply are not because we had to be. Earth is a beautiful world, but it is also a harsh teacher. It made us survivors. Kelvin thought about everything he had witnessed: the trap, the unconventional tactics, the ruthless efficiency, and then the mercy, the rescue operations, the offers of medical assistance. But you saved us, he said. You could have killed everyone. Why show mercy after such violence? Sarah's expression softened. Because the battle is over. We made our point. Continuing to kill after victory is not strategy. It is murder. Humans understand the difference, even if our reputation suggests otherwise. We fight hard, we win decisively, and then we stop. We have learned through terrible experience that endless violence serves no purpose. There has to be a moment when the killing ends and the building begins. She helped Kelvin to his feet. Come, I want to show you something. She led him through the corridors of the destroyer to the command deck. Admiral Jameson stood at the center, monitoring the recovery operations. He looked up as they entered and nodded to Sarah. Ambassador, I see our young historian survived. Sarah guided Kelvin to a large display showing the tactical situation. Look at this, Kelvin. Really look what you see. Kelvin studied the display. He saw human ships assisting disabled council vessels. He saw medical teams being shuttled to ships with casualties. He saw engineering crews helping to stabilize damaged reactors. I see humans helping their enemies, he said quietly. Exactly, Sarah said. This is what the Council did not understand. We are capable of great violence when threatened, but we are also capable of great compassion when the threat has passed. These two qualities are not contradictory. They are complementary. You cannot truly value peace unless you understand the cost of war. You cannot show real mercy unless you have the power to destroy. The Council thought humanity was simply aggressive. They were wrong. We are complex. Admiral Chin approached them, his expression serious. Young one, you will return to the Council. You will show them your recordings. You will tell them what happened here. And you will deliver a message from humanity. He straightened, and his voice took on a formal tone. The human species did not want this war. We asked only to be left alone. We offered trade and cooperation on equal terms. The Council responded with threats and ultimatums. They sent an armada to destroy us, believing we would be easy prey. They were mistaken. We have proven that humanity cannot be conquered. We have proven that our solar system is impregnable to any force the Council can send. But we do not wish to be enemies with the galaxy. We wish to be partners, equals, friends if possible. We will not join the Council under terms of subjugation. but we are willing to negotiate a relationship of mutual respect. The choice now belongs to the Council. They can accept humanity as equals, or they can leave us alone. Those are the only two options we will accept. Kelvin looked between the Admiral and the Ambassador. They will not accept this easily. The Council has ruled the galaxy for thousands of years. They did not negotiate with species they consider inferior. Sarah smiled. Then they will learn to change, or they will leave us alone, and we will continue to expand on our own terms. Either way, humanity is free. That was always the only outcome we would accept. She placed a hand on Kelvin's shoulder again. You are a historian. You understand the importance of truth. Tell them what you saw here. Do not soften it. Do not make excuses for what the Council tried to do or what humanity did in response. Tell the truth, and let the galaxy decide what kind of future they want. 3 weeks later, Kelvin stood before the Supreme Coordination Sphere once more. The chamber was packed even more tightly than before. Every species wanted to hear the report from the Battle of Sol. The few survivors who had returned before Kelvin had told fragmented stories, but he had the complete record, every moment captured, every decision documented. High Coordinator Zephyr looked older than Kelvin remembered. The disaster had aged him. Observer Kelvin of the Luminari, Zephyr said, his voice heavy with exhaustion. You witnessed the battle. You have studied the results. Please present your findings to the Council. Kelvin activated his recordings, and the chamber watched in silence as the Battle of Sol unfolded before them. They saw the trap spring. They saw the human tactics. They saw the ruthless efficiency of the human military and the unexpected mercy they showed afterward. They saw everything. When the recordings ended, the chamber remained silent for a long moment. Finally, Zephyr spoke. Observer Kelvin, in your professional opinion, what did we miss? How did the infinite algorithm fail so completely? Kelvin took a deep breath. He was young and inexperienced, but he had seen something that the greatest minds of the galaxy had missed. It was time to speak truth to power. High Coordinator, the algorithm did not fail. We did. The algorithm can only calculate based on the data it receives. We fed it information about human technology, human ship numbers, human weapons capabilities. We did not feed it information about human psychology. We did not account for human history. We assumed that humans would fight like other species fight, because that was the only warfare we understood. We were wrong. He paused, gathering his courage. Humans are not like other species. They evolved in conditions that required constant adaptation. They spent 200,000 years fighting each other before they ever reached space. They learned every possible way to kill and survive. They weaponized their entire solar system because that is what survivors do. They do not trust others to protect them. They protect themselves. Kelvin looked around the chamber at the assembled representatives. The Council made a fundamental error. We believed that because human technology was primitive, humans themselves were primitive. We confused tools with intelligence. We mistook peaceful intentions for weakness. We assumed that because we had never lost a war, we could not lose a war. The humans taught us that every assumption can be wrong if you have never encountered an opponent who breaks all the rules you think are universal. He straightened his small frame, trying to project confidence he did not feel. The Council must decide now. Do we accept humanity as equals, or do we leave them alone? Those are the only two choices. Because I promise you, based on everything I have seen and studied, if we attack them again, we will lose again. They have already proven they can defeat any conventional force. And if we force them to, they will find unconventional methods that will make the Battle of Sol look merciful by comparison. The chamber erupted in argument. Some representatives demanded immediate retaliation. Others called for negotiation. A few wise voices suggested that perhaps the Council needed to examine its own assumptions about power and authority. The debate would continue for months. But in the end, the choice was obvious. Humanity had rewritten the rules of galactic warfare in less than 5 minutes. They had proven that technology alone did not determine victory. Strategy, creativity, and the willingness to do whatever was necessary mattered more. The Council would eventually agree to negotiate with humanity as equals. Terms would be established. Borders would be recognized. Trade agreements would be signed, and the galaxy would learn a new truth, that sometimes the most dangerous species is not the one with the biggest weapons, but the one that refuses to accept defeat. Ambassador Sarah Okafor received the Council's proposal 3 months after the battle. She read it carefully, consulted with her government, and transmitted humanity's response. We accept your terms. We look forward to a productive relationship based on mutual respect. We hope that what began with violence can evolve into something better. But understand this, humanity will never again accept subjugation. We will never surrender our freedom. We will never bow to any power that seeks to control us. We are willing to be your friends, your trading partners, your allies in times of need. But we will never be your servants. Remember this, and we will have peace. Forget it, and you will face the full measure of human determination once more. The message was received throughout the galaxy. The Council acknowledged it, and in the darkness of space, humanity continued to build, to expand, to explore. They had proven they could fight. Now they would prove they could do so much more. They would show the galaxy that the same creativity that made them dangerous in war could make them valuable in peace. They would contribute to galactic civilization, not as subjects, but as equals. And if anyone ever forgot the lesson of the Battle of Seoul, well, humanity had kept the weapons platforms, just in case. Because that is what survivors do. They hope for the best and prepare for the worst. Always.